Yeah.
Good boy, Frankie. Don't let ugly Oliver bother you.
Old ugly Oliver.
Okay, come here. Hey. Hi, buddy.
Useless, ugly, old.
Oh my god.
Not young like Frankie.
Young and beautiful and soft.
Expensive.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Are we starting?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another special episode of The Sit Down. Oh, Anna can't hear Anna won't wear the headphones,
No,
so
we don't like to hear our voice.
It's ridiculous.
I found this on YouTube. And this is really good. I might just go down a rabbit hole later tonight and listen to
What is this?
it's the Red Army Choir. The Red Army is the strongest. And it's great. I don't know why Jordan Peterson says this is bad art and bad music.
Well,
I
he's
think
obsessed with it.
It's very rousing and uplifting. You can never believe anything anybody says. You have to believe the exact opposite.
Right. That's Anna and Dasha that you're hearing from
Hi.
the Red Scare podcast.
Here we
And
Welcome.
thank God you guys are here because we're getting so sick of talking about these guineas episode after episode. It's the same. God damn it. It's
yeah,
the
they're
same.
not the only ones.
No, they're
in
not.
Crime.
Hey, I'm walking here.
I mean, every week it's the same story, you know? The guy started working for the family, and then he killed his friend, then he went to jail. It's like,
Oh, boo.
we get it. He ate pasta.
Yeah.
He likes meatballs.
He was loyal
Yeah.
until he wasn't.
Until he wasn't.
Yeah, never
Yeah.
hit a woman unless you're married.
Oh yeah, that was the great part in season 2.
Yeah.
Richie April's like, you marry her first.
Yeah.
You piece of shit.
It's
Right.
not rape if you're married.
Right.
That's actually in the Bible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Amen.
I was making a joke, but I think it actually
No,
is.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here, Anna
Thank you
and
for having
Dasha
us.
from
Thank
the
you
Red
for
Scare
the
podcast.
you for
lovely
having
spread
us.
of gabagool you've prepared.
Thank you.
I will go on record as saying the only reason I agreed to do this podcast is because Mike promised us snacks,
Mhm.
and then he did the very kind of conscientious and professional thing and was like, "Do you ladies have any dietary restrictions or food allergies?" And I was like, "What am I, a fag?"
Yeah, that's actually a trick question. If they do, if they're
Yeah.
gluten free, I go, get the fuck out of my country.
Peanut allergies are for Jews and fags.
Hell yeah. Did you guys ever? My brother's allergic to peanuts, and it makes sense. He's
Sure.
basically a Jew.
Yeah.
And,
Weak
I gotta go get
constitution.
tested.
I mean, Italians, this is a fact. Italians are just humiliated Jews. That's why
Right.
they're always so anti-Semitic.
Right.
That feels right.
Right. Did you guys see that show Last Man Standing with Tim Allen?
I
It was-
auditioned for that show.
Oh, you did?
Because they
To play his
Fox
grandson?
Fox is bringing it back.
They are?
Yeah, because after Roseanne got canceled, they need to fill like that niche, so they're bringing Last Man Standing back, but they're
Okay.
recasting his daughter. So I
Okay.
went in for Mandy.
The oldest daughter? Is
Yeah,
that the one
the,
with
like-
the kid?
No, the one she's like into fashion.
Okay.
So you're like the
Nice.
JTT of the show if you get
Basically.
the part. Okay.
Well, they already did not get the part. They said I was too edgy.
Oh.
I love how that show's about a guy with like American conservative values, and he couldn't
Yeah.
even keep the cum out of his his single daughter's womb, and she's got a baby. It's like, what kind of man are you? What kind
Right.
of American? You're
Yeah.
a bad American.
He's like the my daughter ain't dating no black lab meme.
Mhm.
I don't know anything about
What
Tim
is?
Allen.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's a golden retriever in like a hunting cap.
Oh, okay.
Saying my
Oh.
daughter ain't dating
Oh,
no
okay.
black lab.
That's funny.
It's funny.
I don't
now
know.
I'll have something to talk to my father about when I go home.
Yeah.
It's just, we don't really talk that much unless there's a. But go ahead, sir.
I don't know anything about Tim Allen. I know because Dasha apprised me on the fact that they're dredging up Last Man Standing, or because Roseanne got canceled and they
Yeah.
need like another racist show pony to trot out on primetime TV. until he like Me Too's someone and gets canned, and they have to go down the Rolodex.
Clean. He's good.
He probably won't. That's the thing. He probably won't get Me Too'd.
He seems very shrewd, but I did read
cunning, sneaky.
I did read a really good article by Alex Nichols on the Outline about how Tim Allen is like, conservative and a racist.
Yeah, well, he is.
Good news.
And he sold coke and he ratted on his crew.
Just like Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Just like Sammy the Bull. Yeah. I did watch the Santa Claus a couple years ago, and I was like, this guy is like a fucking star.
Yeah, he's got the X factor for sure.
Yeah.
Does he?
Well, yeah, it's like his
great
wife,
actor.
his ex, he's split up with his wife, and she's dating a psychiatrist now who's like a total cuck, and he kind of like, gives it to him. This guy, Neil.
This is in the Santa Claus.
This is a movie. I thought we were talking about real life.
Yeah,
the Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus.
Yeah, it's just but it's a shame that he went so far right. But anyway, I watched the pilot of Last Man Standing, and he's like dropping his grandson off at the daycare center, and the guy's like, "Hello, welcome to the gluten-free daycare center," and he's like, "You know what?
Nah.
Fuck you." It's funny how terrified boomers are of
The
anything that
episode
is,
I watched to get
gluten-free.
ready for my audition, the mom starts smoking cigarettes because she's stressed out about like a teacher's strike. Like she doesn't want to go on strike, so she starts smoking cigarettes. And then her and Tim Allen it's got like some anti-union sentiments that I thought were interesting.
And then he hires his thugs to break up the teachers. They just lug it out of a car like in Sopranos and with bats. Hell yeah. Well, guys, today I thought we could do a little introduction to the Russian mafia, because we don't know that much about them, We know a lot about Italians because Italians love attention, and we're like, oh, let me help you with your book or whatever. Let me break my code of silence for for this Hallmark movie. But we don't see a lot of the Russians like out or in media, really. The only
Eastern Promises.
Yeah,
that's kind of like the only one.
Pro. But I mean, I think we can expect more of that now with all this like Russian collusion stuff in the news.
Russophobia.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, usually the Russian mob comes into play when like human trafficking is a plot point in something, and even then it's like it's not like a fleshed out version of their reality. That's just like that's what they deal in.
Yeah. It seems like anytime they need someone to be like the really scary, like in Training Day, it's like the Russians.
Yeah.
But you don't know that much about.
Well, I think that there's like this like mythology, which is actually probably rooted in truth, that like Italians are like flashy and dramatic, but subscribe to some like heavily mythologized code of loyalty. Whereas the Russian mob and its associates in the Israeli mob are like widely known to be completely godless, and they will do almost anything. Kind of like the Mexican mob. They'll like cut up a hooker or
Interesting.
Don't forget the Armenians.
Oh yeah, those putzes, the lowest of the low.
See what happens, kids, when you reject God from your life?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell it on your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. It does seem like maybe because I heard that you can get most Italian mobsters to flip if you just show them pictures of their family.
Yeah,
and like,
if you just show them a screenplay that of their loosely fictionalized life,
they sit down with the feds. They're like, "You see this? That's your mother. You go to jail. You're never gonna smell her neck ever again. You're never gonna get to give her an extra
sauce.
You're never gonna get to give her an extra long hug."
Yeah. He's like, done.
All right. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I mean, but that's like a normal thing, right? Sometimes people have sex dreams about your mother. Have you?
No.
No.
I've got an old mom though, so
yeah, that's a joke. It's a bit, everybody. But Deborah likes to make fun of me and say that I love my.
You call
mom.
her mommy and stuff.
Yeah, once in a while. But I also didn't get as much. I have a brother who's severely autistic, so I didn't get as much. So there was sort of a competition to. She would always say she's going to move out just with him.
Well, you dodged a bullet.
Why? Not being
nobody
autistic?
wants to be the Tony Soprano of the family.
Right.
Nobody wants to be autistic either.
Well yeah, she would always be like,
once you already are.
Oh, shit, right. You're
you
set.
don't mind so much, I think.
Right.
Yeah. She'd always be like, I'm the only one I'm taking with me is Alex. And I'm like, well, what's he's going to bash your head in one day. No one's going to be here to save you.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell him that he can't have Cheez-Its, and then you're gonna get killed. Anyway, so let's go back to the origins of the Russian mafia. So under the Tsar in the early 20th century, one way to rebel against the government was to be a thief and a criminal. And eventually, these groups of criminals sort of organized, and they banded together, and they created this code. And the code included, not working with the government, not ratting on anybody, and there was a code of silence, and that was sort of like the origin of those people. Did you guys ever have like an illegal hustle or a scam or a?
I just love when to have like a guinea wop mansplain our our mafia too. Did we ever do?
I am a kleptomaniac.
Really?
Me too, Dasha. # me too.
I've had like I've had criminal dealings. I'm not allowed to go back to Sephora for 5 years.
Nice.
I used to work as a karaoke hostess in Los Angeles, which is sort of like a black market soft human trafficking operation where they drive girls around to Korean karaoke clubs, and then you line up in front of the Korean businessmen, and then they pick you and you do karaoke with them. That looks horrifying. You do karaoke with them.
It's like that scene in Rush Hour, right?
Pour drinks for them. Exactly.
Jesus Christ. Bringing Chris Tucker.
It's like waiting
Except
for that story to get worse and worse.
But a lot of Russian and Armenian mobsters also go to frequent these establishments.
Okay.
Oof.
Who do you think has it worse, Asian sex slaves or Eastern European sex slaves?
We're all Asian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eastern European, I think.
Wait, why? Because we have a little bit more of
Smaller
of a soul.
penises.
Right.
Well, because Asian sex
I forgot
slaves
about that.
get to work in those massage parlors and just give hand jobs, right? That's the
Oh.
even in the Slavic ones, they're like strung out and like chained up and like
they have more dignity, I think.
Yeah.
They get to feel like whores. And they don't have to wear like a polo shirt, like a polyester polo shirt with a name tag.
Have you guys seen those Czech pornos where the girls are like
Which one has it worse?
They have to wear a name tag that says Pam on it.
Oh.
I think our biggest like illicit.
I'm sorry that I mansplained.
No,
by the
it's
way.
okay. I love it. Please, I love when men talk down to me. That's not ironic or sarcastic in any way.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I love
we appreciate
to learn.
it. There's not enough of that going around.
Right.
I think our biggest extra legal criminal grift is having this podcast, which is amazing.
Biggest Patreon cash grab of all time.
Yeah. It's like everybody and their mother has a podcast. They're like, woke up this morning, got yourself a podcast. It's terrible, and like somehow we're semi-solvent, which is great news.
What
does solvent mean? This is going to happen a few times during this episode.
It means that we make money.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we do. We do a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are going to get the Red
Listener
Scare
funded.
boost after
Hell yeah.
this
Yeah.
episode.
Hell yeah.
But that is funny. I was also thinking today there should be like a East Coast West Coast podcast war.
Yeah,
it would
I'm
be
down
nice.
with that.
I mean, it would be really nice to just take out a few of those guys
the
and
West
bleed off
Coast
their.
guys.
I mean,
Mhm.
it would be nice
Definitely.
to take out some people that we know personally who are sore losers and rats and snitches.
Kumar Solaki.
Yeah, get them.
But Mike, I listened to your guest spot, your and Adam Friedland's guest spot on Chapo, the Gotti episode, which I thought was brilliant work.
Thanks.
Did amazing, sweetie. But the main thing that I thought was funny was
my
I
girlfriend
forgot.
never tells me I did a good job.
But the thing that I gleaned from it was like podcasting is a lot like being in the mob. It's just a bunch of people.
Yeah.
You get a clubhouse.
That's
Yeah.
why we're
You
here
get
to pay our
to eat
respects
prosciutto
to
at the
your
end of the
family.
fucking day.
We're here
Nice.
to kiss the
Right.
ring and then sit down. No, but people, it's like, you invent criminal activities as a social pretense. So you can sit around with your boys outside of like the pork store.
I mean, how beautiful. We should all go in on some kind of, I bet we could rent some cheap place, or we could just build a clubhouse somewhere.
A podcasting front.
Yeah, it's like just another place to hang out,
That'd be nice.
When you're getting yelled at, or when you
the podcasting
when the wife's mad at you.
When specifically Dev is angry with you.
Yeah. Thank you. But
so the mob.
I'm saying, like, how funny would it be if like they're doing an episode of Doughboys and they're like, "What'd you think of IHOP?" We just kick in the door, just blow them away. Like, this is ours. No, not even kill them. I mean, not even kill them. Just smack them around a little bit.
Yeah,
be like, this is ours now.
Take their microphone.
Promo our podcast.
That is my fantasy. Like when I always go into these like mafia fantasies. Like I was at the Village Lantern, and Artie Fuqua came up and like shook my hand, and Artie was in the tour bus with Tracy Morgan.
Okay,
so he got a big settlement from Walmart. So Artie's always wearing like $4,000 suits, and he's got a new car and everything. And he came up to the table and like shook my hand, and I pretended that like I was the guy who orchestrated the takeover and let the other guys gain power, and now they all respect me. So maybe it is autism, folks. I don't know.
Vivid imagination.
Thank you. So after Lenin seized power, he was robbed shortly after, and then he started a brutal crackdown on the thieves, where they were to be shot on sight. But really, when they had the most like hard times was when Stalin came into power. He threw a lot of them into gulags, and then when he needed reinforcements for the army, he promised freedom to the thieves. And then a lot of them joined the army, which went against the code that they believed in, which was to work in the government.
Right.
Well, guess what? The thing is that criminals have no code or any morals or scruples, and they will flip on you for any kind of like minuscule incentive. But we have like Russia has a very long tradition of organized crime that goes back basically to the gulags, where you see like the rise of the modern day like вор в законе, which is like a thief in law. That's what it means. And
I kept seeing that term on Wikipedia. I wasn't exactly sure what it meant.
And it's sort of like an omerta code, a brotherhood, like the most ruthless, vicious, and infamous crime syndicate in Russia is probably this thing called the Solntsevo mob, the Bratva, the brotherhood, that is like based on the outskirts of Moscow. And these guys all come from that system of being in gulags, where they basically had, like, I don't know if you read about like the War of the Bitches, like all of that sort of thing. Yeah, Suki. And that's where the whole like elaborate kind of taxonomy of tattoos comes about.
It's from the gulags.
It's from the gulags. Yeah, it's from the prison system, and there are like a lot of like horrifying stories about how these guys who like these early mobsters in the gulags would basically they'd be like on a ship bound for like some Japanese island to like where they lived in exile for years. And originally the Russian government would mix them in prisons and on prison boats with political prisoners, and they would do things like gamble away everything they had and then start gambling on the possessions of the political prisoners. Like you would gamble away some other guys like sunglasses or like prescription glasses, and then he would be as good as
but it
dead.
Wasn't they were gambling on them. It wasn't like they were selling them into slavery.
No, but they were gambling on their possessions. Like if if you had a political prisoner and he had like a watch or a pair of glasses, they would gamble it away.
Yeah.
Wedding ring.
Yeah, anything, yeah.
Imagine just being the equivalent to like a blogger, and you were thrown in jail.
Yeah.
And now these criminals are gambling away.
Yeah.
Your MacBook.
No, basically.
Your MacBook, yeah.
It's worth at least $800.
Your iPad. Yeah, $400 for the iPad.
It's awful.
Yeah, but then actually, so what happened was Stalin sort of reneged on his promise of freedom, which it's like, I kind of feel bad for those guys. Like they had to fight for the Red Army. They didn't really have weapons or anything, right? Didn't he send him out with like a spatula and like a
like
jar of pickles and throw it at the
pickle
Germans?
herring,
Yeah. Yo, here's your potato. Now, when you're killed,
But if you
when the
get
guy
killed-
next to you is killed, you pick up his potato and you run with it.
But if you got killed with a potato, that would suck.
So
yeah,
what
there
happened?
were a lot of Germans that were paralyzed by potatoes. They had to hang themselves.
Yeah.
Because it was embarrassing. Well, Stalin sort of went back on his promise, so then all the guys were sent back to prison, and that's when the like Anna said, the bitch wars happened. They were labeled Suki, and they were
the
all
bitch
just
wars is actually what happens when you and me gang up on Kumar's on Twitter.
Wait, who's Kumar?
He's some cuck that we don't.
He's
Oh, okay.
he has a podcast called Delete Your Account, and he tried to come for me on Twitter, and now he's my enemy, and I'll never let it go.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
He's like the Artie Bucco of the podcasting scene. Like nobody respects him.
Really? Great. That's
He
so that's
eventually
his thing. He
dies,
tries to get people like off of social media.
I guess. Yeah.
just like he loves to call people irony fascists.
Mhm.
Is the sort of the thing that
There's nothing
Or-
ironic about my fascism.
And
very
what is
sincere
that? That's like that's like
fascists.
people who are pretending to like who are being ironic, but he thinks
people
they're really
who are not doing like who like even Chapo or whatever who are, do like anti-PC
yeah. Let me tell you something.
posting.
I do not ironically love Tim Allen. Okay,
Okay.
that guy's my hero.
Yeah.
But
Very
actually, that kind of shows you a
talented.
lot about Stalin's character. He's not a very good guy if he's going to go back on his word like that.
Sure,
Yeah, a Caucasian man does not go back on his word.
No.
I don't mean a white man. I mean like a man from the Caucasus. You don't do that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I was an unplanned pregnancy, and my father, because he was an Armenian man, not like one of these garden variety Russian cucks, he agreed to marry my mother because he was a man of his word.
Very nice.
Yeah. God bless him.
But there actually were guys that stayed behind and refused to fight, and they ended up killing the guys who served in the army.
Oh, I see. So
Oh.
that's the modern day division. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Which is funny that you I guess these guys just believed in something that strong and they were like, no, I'm going to stay in prison because I like it here.
Yeah.
All my
Yeah.
friends are here.
I would.
You know?
I would too.
You would?
I'd
yeah.
rather be in a gulag than a war.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, prison
Yeah.
can be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can
You're a nice
bone a lot of other
structure.
dudes.
Don't have to make a lot of
Yeah.
It's not gay. I'm in jail.
Can finally bottom for.
Yeah.
Give bottoming a try.
You get
Yeah.
out in like 30 years, you
Get
go back
some
to your
new
wife and kids, you know?
experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, but the guys who were in jail were so offended that the other guys served in the war that they killed all of them. And the guards really didn't do anything about it because they were like, oh, less prisoners. We have to
Who cares?
Yeah.
we have to watch. Yeah. I think another thing that's kind of interesting about the Russian mob is it seems like with Italians there is this like rigid power structure where you have the boss and the capos and the associates, but it seems like with the Russian mob it is sort of just like a loose network of people that all kind of like work together. And I think it's funny how much Italians like love fascism.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it just kind of feels better when you have something to like look up to. When you have like your
father
whether it's
figure.
like a father or Jesus
Yeah.
or like the boss or your capo. Like it's just an easier way to go through life. And I think that's why my dad still goes to church every week. And
Italian Jesus.
Yeah, I noticed this because I'm like first generation white scum immigrant from New Jersey. So all of
where
my
in Jersey you from?
Central Jersey.
I'm from Hamilton.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm from South Brunswick or Mouth Brunswick as they
Oh.
call it.
Wait, why do they call it Mouth
I
Brunswick?
don't know because it's not even a funny
It's
joke.
not even a funny
because
joke.
They're retarded
Yeah.
teenagers.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And
I
they call
grew up-
Rutgers slutkers.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Got him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Highest STD rate of like any public school, I think.
Really?
But there's also like 45,000 people on that campus. But
And they're all sluts.
They're all horny. It's
Yeah,
all
they're
it's
all
all horny
sluts.
Indians who can't finger until they leave home.
yeah, I can absolutely confirm your hypothesis that Italians love fascism because all of my boyfriends have always been Italian American because Jews won't date me because I remind them too much of their mother. But they are all completely. They're like these guys who are basically have cast off the chains of their mother and the Catholic Church, but have kind of thrown themselves headlong into other like ideologies that hold like a fascist
that
grip.
are rigid, right?
Yeah. They're like, whatever. It's some like arbitrary intellectual thing that they're doing, but they need that like order.
They need like like a Sam Harris or like a Jordan Peterson to sort of be like, you're like my dad.
An alpha.
And they're all like,
we want to be led.
Yeah, totally. And they're all, but they want to be led with the illusion that they're kind of like the boss.
Or they could be the boss someday.
They could, It's like it's actually almost a very American philosophy of life, because you're like basically it's like what John Steinbeck said about Americans, that they vote like humiliated millionaires, like they're aspirational. Like they vote against their own interests because they hope one day, or they think one day that they're going to be rich. And they never do. And I think
Luis Gomez is like that, by the way. He'll defend. He's a podcaster. He does the Real Ass podcast. He's the head of Gas. He's the CEO of Gas Digital
the
Networks.
CEO of gaslighting.
But he was very. I did his show one time. He was very defensive of Jeff Bezos and.
I see. Oh wow!
All those guys, because they do think that
he
if
is
they
retarded.
I mean, this sounds like my contrarian Italian American ex, who's always like, like the tech sector is a blight on the world, but then is like cozying up to Silicon Valley, like apparatchiks. That's a Russian word, guys. But I think like Italians have this like innate contrarianism because they've always historically had to like rebel against the Catholic Church. But I think like any good contrarian knows that they are a contrarian because they're gullible. Right. They're like susceptible to the ideology, which is cute. It gives you like
it is cute.
Yeah, it's like it means that
you like think you're smart.
Yeah,
because you think you figured it out. Yeah,
I'm smart.
9/11 was an
I'm
insight.
smart. That's like my favorite scene of any mob movie ever. Is like Fredo on the fucking recliner, like Michael, I'm smart.
I want respect. That was another thing too that my dad would do sometimes, where he would like demand respect.
Yeah,
when I'm like, respect is earned. You fucking cuck.
Yeah, you don't demand it.
Yeah. I think that's why he hit me too, because it's like, you're supposed to respect me. I'm your father, because there's the structure,
right?
We love that structure,
that arbitrary
you take
structure,
that respect by force. Yeah.
Whereas I think Russians completely don't respect order, no respect. We, as Dasha,
it's chaotic.
Says, we worship chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
There's like human life doesn't have any cost, and it's like everything's up for grabs.
I don't think we have that American. I don't think this is an Italian thing. I think this is an American thing. We don't have that veneration for like the individual or whatever. Sorry, this is getting like too intellectual, so I'm going to dial it down. But there's a lot of there's a lot of
some people think we're idiots.
Situation. What does contrarian mean? I was real silent for that.
Michael, is it true? There's like a Russian mobsters though really, 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 really love Italian mob culture and mob movies. It's like it really provides.
Well, it is the best stuff.
Yeah.
We do make the best art,
Yeah, this is true. Have you guys ever heard of Michelangelo? The Sistine Chapel?
Da Vinci?
Yeah. Joe Rogan. He's like 3/4 Italian.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's up there with those guys.
Yeah.
I can't. Well, so your dad has that power structure, but like we've talked about this before. His dad's like white collar. He's like in the finance world.
Don't remind me.
He's a Cusimano.
He's a stain. Yeah, he is a Cusimano. He's a Wonder Bread Wop.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I always say this too. When you're Italian, you're either a John Gotti family or a Giuliani family, and we were totally a Giuliani family. And,
wait, really? I think that's the same thing. Giuliani is like he's like the Cosmo Medici of New York. He's like the uber criminal. He just has like this.
But I think, in our house, it was always like he cleaned up the city.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure. Cleaned up the streets.
He was there for 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He saved 9/11.
Right.
He stopped the third plane. He stopped the third plane from hitting Building 7.
Yeah. In between covering his mouth was his neckerchief. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Giuliani. He should be on The Sopranos. He's like a perfect Sopranos character.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, remember a few years ago he got in that argument with Michael Eric Dyson on, I think, CNN or something, and he was like, I wouldn't have to put white officers on the street if you weren't shooting each other.
Wow.
And I just... people were like, yeah. And we had cake that night at my house. Because he told
Finally,
it like...
somebody's saying it like it is.
Someone tells it like it is. Yeah. But yeah, that is interesting. Where does religion come into like Russian culture? Or is it more Orthodox or?
Well, Russian Orthodox is the prevalent sort of like faith, but then in Soviet times, all religion was outlawed, godless. And then
why was that?
Because of Karl Marx,
the socialist project, baby.
Yeah, because material is like the socialist materialist project. It's like the state above all else, But then afterwards, I was baptized Catholic actually in secrecy because I was born like in the last like few months of the Soviet Union.
And you and Adam are kind of from the same part of Belarus.
Yeah, allegedly, yeah. From
so he said your
Minsk.
family might have,
pogromed his
family.
Wait, Adam's from Belarus?
No, his like grandfather.
Well, yeah. He also told me he had somebody in his family from Riga, which is cute.
Riga is where Anna's from.
My
Anna's
Jews are from.
As well as Adam's Jews.
Shout out to my Jews.
And my family history is really murky, like around World War II, so I don't know.
Okay.
Exactly where we're from, but Belarus, yeah.
Okay. I remember one time I had a CCD teacher tell me that animals couldn't get into heaven, and
so aggressive.
He was like, it's like, no, it's only for human souls. And my dad like hated our dog, and I went home and told my parents that. My mom was like, that's terrible, and my dad was like, no, it's true, animals can't get into heaven. And
they actually go to animal hell. And they suffer for eternity.
Yeah. They have to go be like a rescue, and some woman with tattoos doesn't let them go to a house, doesn't let them get adopted because she didn't like the lady's couch.
Meanwhile, you still
She's
like
I'm
believe
sorry.
in Santa.
Yeah.
And like the tooth fairy, but dogs fucking burning.
Have I talked about this on the show? I believed in Santa till I was maybe like 13.
I think a little bit. But it's still
you were
embarrassing.
like a typical Italian
Really
boy. You
embarrassing.
believed in Santa until you were 13. You were like breastfed until you were 16.
Yeah.
And then some.
And then you have to go through like 5 years of heavy psychotherapy to find out that actually you hate your mother.
Right. But she's not Italian, so she kind of like hates.
What do you mean she's not Italian?
She's a quarter Italian. So my dad. So I'm 5/8 Italian. The rest is Irish and Polish. But yeah, my mom kind of has a contempt for Italian men and how much they love their mothers. But sometimes when I go home, there's like she'll leave me some breast milk in the fridge.
Yeah. You just like throw it into the cold brew.
Yeah.
Standard mom show.
There's ice cream. Like, oh boy, some rum raisin with mom's tea milk. I love coming home, Deborah. I'm gonna be here for 5 days.
Well, no, it's funny that you say this because my mom, who is sort of like mostly Russian and Russian Jewish, really hated the fact that in Armenian culture, Armenians are like the Italians of Russia. They have the same kind of like flashy mob aesthetics, like a lot of gold pieces. Those guys are also like mama's boys. Like they're, breastfeeding until they're 41.
Basically.
Yeah. It's actually a very clean equivalent. Like Armenians are really to Russia what Italians are to the United States.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the Armenian mob is sort of like the West Coast arm of the Russian mob.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a hairy
Glendale.
finger with a pinky ring on it. But if you're a Russian, this is scientific fact. If you're a Russian immigrant, you absolutely have a mobbed up uncle. Like we all do. Like I don't, maybe not you, but yeah, God bless you, Dasha, but the rest of us absolutely. And it's always like some guy who's like 5'4" and wearing like a linen button down short sleeve with matching slacks and like shedding a single tear while biting into his fist over something that most people would find like grotesquely sentimental. Like, like playing a few chords on the piano, gazing out of the window.
Right. You got to let it out sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also funny because there's a place that I go for my tracksuits in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy, called Murray's Corner, and it's like in a black neighborhood. But it's funny how culturally similar we are. And then your whole life as a young Italian kid, you're like, don't bring one of them home.
Yeah.
You know?
Isn't that what the Bronx Tale was? Bronx Tale was about?
Yeah. Yeah. But we're like basically the same people.
Italians and blacks.
Yeah.
Well, I've said this before about Armenians and blacks.
You know,
I get into a lot of trouble because people are like, Anna, you're saying you're not white, which, like, why would anybody who could pass as white not identify as white to retain certain social benefits? But Armenians are a lot like black people culturally, which is why I think the Kardashians all date black guys. It's no secret.
Mm-hmm.
I get into a lot of trouble for saying this, but it's true. It's like the culture is similar. It's like warm and vivacious. We like gold jewelry. We like music. We like cookouts. Like, it's the same thing. It has nothing to do with like white Protestantism.
Yeah. And white Protestantism is so stuffy. Like, they're the ones who were the big proponents of prohibition back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, they sort of saw it as like, they sort of saw drinking as something that like the gross people in the city did, and they were respectable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're responsible for all of society's ills, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think unfortunately Dasha and I probably don't have a lot of like exciting firsthand.
I'm descendant from I'm like circus Russian, not mob Russian.
Not mob. I'm not either.
But the Armenian mobsters who would come to the karaoke club were always like the scariest. I eventually stopped even like going into those rooms because it was like always some like mobster trying to like finger you while he's like doing coke off his phone with like a picture of his wife on it.
Oh God. Like, that was in LA.
Like, yeah.
It's like his wife with like a rhinoplasty bandage.
Exactly. He's like, I want to fuck you to death.
Ooh.
I do like the only like good Russian mob story that I remember from my youth is like once my dad drove us to this weird parking lot in Queens that was like it had like a Home Depot and a Toys R Us, and he was like delivering money and documents to some guy who was called the Korean, who like I think like fled Koreans. Who fled the Soviet Union because he was like an economist. He was one of my dad's like math nerd friends. And I think he got like, you know, kind of tangled up in some illicit.
This was in Jersey?
This was in Queens. We drove all the way to Queens.
Oh.
We had to go to a notary. But he...
Because that's like exciting when you're a kid from Jersey going into the city. You know, like you go to see the... But your dad was like, yeah, we're going to Queens to this guy's office.
Just like this is like my youth was like trips to like weird offices in like Queens and Brighton Beach to like get a notary to like sign off on documents. But yes, he kind of met up in a parking lot with this shadowy kind of Korean looking figure. And I was just like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah. Nice. Well, let's talk about, so what's interesting about the Russian mob is they have a way of sort of branding themselves and communicating with each other. And it's almost like, so they tattoo themselves, and that's to identify like your rank and the things you've done in the organization. So let me see if I can turn this television on.
They just add stuff to the tattoo, right? They wouldn't like remove it and do like a brand new.
So what's funny is, so when you're a new prisoner in a Russian prison, the first thing they ask you is, do you stand by your tattoos? And if you can't identify what one of your tattoos is, you're given a brick or a piece of glass and asked to remove it. And if you don't remove it, you'll be beaten or raped or murdered.
I think
this is the Japanese symbol for like power.
Excuse me, what is R.I.P. grandma?
Mom, this butterfly signifies my.
Yeah,
it's like one of those Om tattoos that like hot girls in college get on their ankle.
Yeah.
So we've got some visuals here.
They should really send all of these like Brooklyn hipsters back to prison in Russia because they're all covered in Russian prison tattoos.
I was just thinking that when I was watching this, and and I don't have any tattoos, and I guess I feel like I never like earned them.
Yeah,
like, I never earned the right because there's nothing that I'm that connected to, or like I guess I don't know. I had a hard life, but not in that kind of way. Like I don't know if I just get a retarded brother
Not like
tattoo.
this.
On my,
Yeah.
yeah, but this is like so. These guys are. I mean, everything that is on your body indicates. So this guy has Stalin and Lenin on his chest, and the reason they had that was because people thought that a firing squad wouldn't fire at you if you had those images.
Oh, gotta love our people and their total lack of ideological convictions.
Yeah.
Like, be like, shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
Don't shoot him in the chest.
I can't shoot that drawing of Stalin.
It's like I'll just pop you in the head.
Yeah.
My favorite ones, I don't know if you guys have seen these. My favorite ones are like the really horrifically anti-Semitic ones, where it's like an anti-Semitic caricature that looks like a goat or a rat, like fucking a pristine Russian woman, and people would get these tattooed on their body. Those are like by far the best ones, and the message would always be like something, like
what do those symbolize?
I mean, I think they just symbolize anti-Semitism. It was like the Russian equivalent of like Jews run the media.
Right. No, maybe a removable tattoo.
Oh, so the goat is a Jew.
Yeah. It's like an anti-Semitic caricature.
Like, look what they do to our women.
Yeah. And it was, the woman is a metaphor for Mother Russia, and the Jew like shaking the bag of shekels is like a metaphor for like Marxism or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember that show Prison Break, where he had all the tattoos on his arm and stuff to like go rescue his brother from prison?
From autism?
Well, I mean, he had autism, but it was like all these prison plans like laid out underneath the imagery and stuff. So he knew exactly how the prison was designed to break him out. But I think it'd be funny if it was like all anti-Semitic tattoos and like goat fucking Stalin's like eyebrows signify a house. How small the sink is where he's gonna dig.
I mean, I have a tramp stamp that's a passage from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Look around if you guys want to check it out.
That is kind of like, I mean, you sort of have to respect people who are that like upfront about it, because a lot of racism today is very coded.
Yeah,
it's
nice when it's just out in the open.
Yeah.
I mean, you have people like Richard Spencer who are like, I just want a white homeland, and it's almost like, I don't know. It feels like with him, he's almost hiding the fact that he wants like genocide.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think the most curious thing about Richard Spencer is that he was married to a woman from Georgia, the country, not the state. So he was married to like basically a Caucasian woman who I think in his hierarchy of whiteness would be kind of like lower on the chain.
Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which was like it's like sort of like being married to like an Asian or like a Puerto Rican girl.
Yeah, it's like his dirty secret.
Yeah.
Well, here's what some of those tattoos mean.
Mm-hmm.
This one looks like Jesus is dying on an erect penis, and I feel like it would be funny to say that to them in an environment where you couldn't be hurt.
Yeah. Well, all these things, like I think that star in the corner on that guy's shoulder, that represents that he's like a person of authority. And then I think the tiger means you're an active criminal. A spider, when facing up, denotes an active criminal. Facing down, it denotes one who has left the lifestyle. Medals can indicate rank, or if done in pre-so.
Can you leave the lifestyle ever? Really though?
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. What do they do? Just turn the spider upside down?
I don't know. Yeah, like
they cut it off.
Cut your
with a
skin
piece
off
of
and
glass,
put it. Yeah.
flip it.
Yeah. But it almost feels like when you hear about this, it's almost like Italians just like playing dress up. You know, like these guys are really dedicated to to this.
Well, so speaking of Italians playing dress up, so when I
Yes.
We're gonna put on tracksuits later.
Yeah. Wait, are you Italian? No.
But we had fans
We
send
did
us
get sent,
tracksuits.
some Hungarian tracksuits, which we should put on.
Wonderful. Yeah. Gotta don the tracksuits.
Yeah.
No, but so I worked at like I was telling you guys, I worked as a hostess briefly at downtown Soho Italian restaurant. It was very upscale, but rumor has it was associated with the Genovese crime family because one of the allegedly the owner's father was somehow involved with them. And I used to, I'd stand at the podium twiddling my thumbs, and being from New Jersey and being like sort of Italian passing, I'm a huge fan of Sopranos. It's probably my favorite show. But I always assume like Goodfellas, Casino, Sopranos, all these like American mob classics are basically dramatized for comedic effect. And I was forewarned that these guys would be coming up into the restaurant, and they came in every Thursday.
Because it's fun to watch Sopranos, like when you're from Jersey, and just be able to identify the things and the towns.
Yeah.
Like when Tony's like, "I'll meet you in Bloomfield." You're like, hey, "That's exit 148 off the Parkway."
No, and it really unlocked kind of like a Proustian, Freudian thing for me, because it reminded me of like I had this distinct image of like my dad dangling a cold cut into his mouth, shirtless, like next to the refrigerator. It was like very sweet. But like basically these guys came in, and I realized then and there that The Sopranos is so accurate it may as well be a documentary. It's like The Matrix, it's like totally there's no kind of embellishment or exaggeration. These guys are those guys. And the thing with Italians is that they dress like guys like who are mobbed up. They dress like toddlers, like getting ready for
I think it's a style choice. I don't know.
You have to be comfortable.
They dress like their mothers dress them for like a school photo. It's like a newsboy hat and a cashmere sweater and like matching soft suede moccasins with treads.
Nice gold chain.
Yeah. But so these guys would come in and they were like completely like, like you would expect mobsters to be like, "Hey, what's up, Toots? Got to take a leak."
Yeah. But you have all this money. It's like you got to spend it on something.
Yeah, and
I did that. I was working at this scam home improvement company when I was in college, and I had all this like more money than I knew what to do with, and I would just buy like colorful shirts every week with my paycheck. I bought a Just Cavalli shirt.
How many chains do you have on right now?
I have 2.
That's not enough.
No,
if you're gambling,
I'm embarrassed to say
it's only 2.
It's only 2. Yeah.
No, but these guys were just like, decked out like in like they always wore like shades of taupe and cream. Like
sure.
And they would literally bring in their gumars. Like there would be one after the other, like every day a new one. And I'm like, aren't you afraid you're gonna get caught? But I guess they weren't, which I was kind of aroused by. I thought that was a boss
are sanctioned
move.
by Italian culture.
Yeah. I'm into it. Americans are like Americans are like so freaked out by it, and I'm like, no, it's good. These men, they know what they're doing. They're like living it up in their middle age.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are a lot of really unhappy middle-aged guys who are stuck in loveless marriages.
Sure.
I mean, personally, I would never cheat on somebody, but I don't know if it works. How were their gumars like a lot younger?
Yeah, and they were very hot, and some of them were Russian. And my favorite one, who was this guy called Richie, he was very hot. I
just imagine like you're a Russian girl, you're coming here in like a shipping container, and you're like, maybe I will get to be gumar.
Yeah.
Powerful
I mean,
Italian man.
I almost
man who owns chain of sandwich shops.
Yeah.
No, literally, this guy owns like a chain of bakeries.
Yeah,
I
you
was
get
like,
to fuck Jimmy John.
I almost became a gumar in that restaurant.
Oh yeah,
because this man would like come up and hit on me, which I found very flattering because I'm not his usual type, He liked my short hair. One day he like threw down his black card. He's like, "Hey, Toots, you ever seen one of these?"
You ever seen one of these?
Dude, a black card would turn me on.
But
it's like heavy. Yeah, I love those heavy credit cards.
Yeah. He made me touch it, which is a metaphor.
Of course.
That's so funny. That's like being like a rich, poor guy. Like you have to spend money on stuff to show people that you have the money.
Yeah,
where it's like I feel like real rich people just keep it all in a.
Yeah,
no,
real money. That's
real rich people wear Swatch watches and $10 T-shirts from like Kirkland brand. They don't. They're not like out there stunting. But this guy, like he had like a Rolodex of really hot women who would come in with like big booties and like fur coats. And one of them was Russian. He literally bought her braces, which I thought was really charming. It was something
really
like Tony Soprano would do.
So
Yeah.
nice.
And then Carmela's like, "You bought her braces."
Yeah. The Russian mobsters who would come to the karaoke club, I always knew, because you like sit down, they pick you, and sometimes they want Russian girls specifically, and then you sit down and you're like, oh.
So you work there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You're like, oh, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, import, export. And you're like, I couldn't tell by your tracksuit and like little baby bangs that your fucking tracheotomy that you were a mobster. Now we know you're doing import, export.
But what's the point of having money if you can't show it off a little bit with what you're wearing?
Yeah.
You know?
Or what kind of whore you have on your
That's how I feel. It was like,
look how straight her teeth are.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he like get your like Kumar some Invisalign.
Yeah.
That's great.
But I think like it was like really fun to observe these guys. I was like kind of thrilled and intoxicated. I was like, oh my God, like real life Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I think that Sopranos,
you're gonna get whacked. Once they listen to this.
Yeah, I'm gonna get whacked.
Actually, there was an FBI tape of the DeCavalcanti family who the Sopranos are based on, and they were like, "This Soprano show, is this us?"
Yeah. That's like everybody's like Jewish uncle who like hates Curb Your Enthusiasm because he can't handle how much he resembles Larry.
Right.
Fucking bald, four-eyed asshole.
Yeah.
No, but this one night, I have to tell this story because it's like legitimately like upsetting. This one night there was like a table of like lanyard tech bros sitting at the table, and we were gonna flip the table and give it to them, and they had this like Russian Jewish friend who was a furrier, of course. He was like from like Bay Ridge or Forest Hills or something. And he came up to me and he was like, "Hey Anna, you want me to?"
Where was the restaurant again?
In Soho. He was like, "Hey Anna, you want me to tell these guys to kick rocks?" And I was like, yeah, like thinking he was fully joking. And all of a sudden they like started circling around this table of like patrons and threatening to break their kneecaps. And it's like, guys with like briefcases who work in tech. They were like flustered. And that's the thing I think The Sopranos does really well. They completely illuminate the fact that these people are lawless and that they're prone to like unforeseen, disproportionate violence when things don't go their way because they have a fundamentally provincial mindset. They don't think that anything exists outside of like their little sandlot because they're so like, like existentially precarious. Their egos are always endangered. Hence all this like power and respect and honor bullshit. But that was legitimately scary. Like, why would anybody seek to like glorify that?
Yeah. It reminds me of in season 5 when Chris and Paulie kill that waiter just like for no reason.
Oh my God, yeah.
And to me, I thought that was the worst murder in the show because it's just a guy doing his job. I didn't like those guys after.
Yeah,
there were other. I mean, Johnny Sack. He was okay, but
he was okay. No, or like what the scene when, or like the arc. It's like a whole arc when like Richie gets out and then like maims Beansy.
Yeah.
Or when the famous one, the Vito one, when Ralphie kills his stripper baby mama, that's the worst one.
Yeah.
So
did she have braces?
Yeah,
she might have.
Yeah, she did have braces.
Yeah.
So how did that all get resolved? Like, were you like, "Whoa, it's okay"?
Because maybe they were trying to impress you by doing that.
Well, we tried to.
Anna, you said you wanted me to break this guy's kneecap. You just got some poor guy.
Like, cool, I'll give you a Hummer in your freshly washed Beamer.
Yeah.
Like, no. We started.
Thank God for the feds. Am I right?
Yeah.
For those heroes.
No, we like tried to stop them and they like literally insulted us and pushed us off. Once they're in violence mode, you can't reason with them. It's like really terrifying.
They had to show the table of betas that it's time to go.
I wish I could physically threaten people to get my way, to be honest.
Yeah, it would feel gross though.
It would feel gross. I think, well, there's a lot of people who sort of, I think, fetishize or fantasize about organized crime and like the idea, like all these like young boys
they like start
in New
podcasts
Jersey.
about it.
All these young boys. All these young impressionable boys who have great pubes.
Like one testicle, but you realize that if you actually like exerted violence on somebody to coerce or threaten them, you would feel like fucking shit at the end of the day. You would not feel good about yourself
unless they deserved it, like that guy you're in a perpetual war with.
Oh, Kumar Salahi,
yeah.
I'd hire some like toughs from Brighton Beach and like tracksuits to come over there and rough him
just
up.
like a mock execution.
Yeah. Take him to the river and don't shoot him blindfold.
Yeah.
Like Christopher in season 1.
Hey, PU.
They just hear the
Christopher.
click. They just hear the click of the gun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Shit their pants.
Yeah. Well, some more. Let's talk about some more Russian tattoos because I think they'll also tattoo you to to demote
segment.
you. Well, actually, so there's like rankings, but then also they'll tattoo you to show like what you've done. Like if you have a hooded executioner, that's a prisoner who's murdered a relative.
Wow.
And then bells.
Dark shit.
That's our specialty, murdering relatives in Russia.
You know what's funny? There is probably some guy in Greenpoint right now who has a hooded executioner tattoo.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Every time I go to Greenpoint, I see guys with literal Russian prison tattoos because they all bought that trio of coffee table books.
Yeah.
And then they went and got Russian prison tattoos.
Actually, my ex-boyfriend has one. I bought it for him for his birthday.
Nice. And now bells indicate a long prison sentence served without parole for being uncooperative to the authorities. So if you don't rat on your friends, you get a nice, pretty little,
Cute.
pretty little bell.
Yeah.
Nice little bell.
On your body. A circle with a dot inside indicates an orphan.
Whoa.
What?
And then now that there's also forced tattoos. So they'll put informer on you, which the Russian alphabet, a lot of squiggly lines in there, but it's like regular letters and then squiggly lines.
Yeah. What alphabet are you looking at? I feel like Cyrillic is very Stukach. That means a snitch.
Okay.
Yeah. God.
Watch out for squiggly lines, Mike.
They'll put enemy of the people. They'll tattoo "I am a bitch." It'd be funny if you're just walking
on
around
your
with...
eyelids. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But then it's like you never live it down unless you're a piece of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suka.
And then red card suits, like diamonds and hearts on the back, indicate a passive homosexual.
Bottom.
Yeah, which I think is that what that is? I kept saying passive homosexual.
That means a bottom, yeah.
It means you can just rape that person.
As opposed to an like a...
Yeah. Matt, show us your ass.
Yeah.
You want to see my tattoo?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well.
Yeah, you're coming up on 59 minutes here.
What else do we have to cover?
Exactly.
I don't know.
I guess
it'd be fun to see those hipsters go to those Russian
I think
prisons.
so too. I'm trying to see if I have a.
It means like I killed a family member.
It means I have a podcast.
Passive homosexual.
Passive homosexual. Well, it's funny because this guy has eyes on his chest, but if you get eyes on your stomach, that means you're a homosexual. It's like your penis is making the nose.
Oh, cute.
That's so cute.
And then eyes on the chest mean I'm watching over you, or I'm watching you.
Eyes on the chest means you like it when a aggressive homosexual nuts on your chest.
Okay, let me explain. And then this guy's got a knife through his neck, and that indicates that he's killed somebody in prison, and the drops of blood indicate how many victims. It
Wait,
was.
that's a really cool.
The guy on the
tattoo.
right.
On the right.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good that he doesn't have the teardrops. You know, he could still get a job at a Wendy's or.
It's funny because he looks like an office worker on top.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Guy on the left is hot.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
This one?
He's like, he's very hot.
It's a retro.
Asiatic
Yeah, we like that guy.
thug.
And then this guy has a fruit cup on his shoulder, so we just need to give him your fruit cup.
So this is the book that, or the series of books that we were talking about that like comes in these beautiful pastel colors, and every hipster has it next to their
and then they find like a nice drawing of a bear that they get tattooed that means something terrible. It means you sodomized your mother.
It means I sodomized my mother.
What's going on with that?
Yeah, that's like a.
Oh well, actually, so the way they would do these tattoos is they would melt down tires, and they would mix the melted tires with urine, and they would usually use the person who was getting tattooed. They would use their urine because it was more, sterile and clean. But they would, because I think the tattoos were outlawed, so they would do them in secret and in very unsanitary conditions. And if some guys got AIDS this way, so there is a dark side to this lifestyle, guys.
Imagine being a prison tattoo artist who was proud of their work. Like, look at the shading
that's-
on
but-
that.
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's
look
beautiful.
really
Doing that with a
for-
melted tire.
right.
piss.
And
That's
urine.
amazing.
Right.
You know,
What
some
is
of
this
these.
one? This like
This-
fellow writing by
Is this
candlelight.
Matt, can you pull up a Wikipedia article on your phone because it has a list of all the tattoos and what they mean.
I feel like a lot of our contemporary artists could take notes from these figures. They're like,
definitely.
this is like a master class in human ingenuity.
yeah. Let's see. This guy.
Hot, also
This guy.
hot,
No, this guy
hot.
has the eyes on his
Which means he's
stomach,
gay.
which means he's
a
gay.
fenoic.
Yeah. Which it seems like they're allowed in the group more than they're more accepting than Italians are.
Of homosexuality.
Yeah.
Well, when you're locked up for, I mean,
Right.
all of Russia is a
You
prison.
get a pass for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder. I couldn't find much about the role of women in this world.
They're sex slaves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Mystery solved.
They're gambling
They're,
chips.
prostitutes.
You got to gamble away their possessions.
Yeah. And then a heart means that you raped someone.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
So
Heart
Yeah.
mom.
Touching.
so there's a
Yeah.
little bit of a code.
Yeah.
Right? You can't be a rapist. And then so this guy, but maybe this guy's just prison gay, and now that tattoo's on him forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Well, it's a
doesn't
good thing he's probably dead. So
Yeah.
Interesting.
That is funny. They use the penis as the nose.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
yeah. But I think that probably the coolest thing about the Russian mob is that all these guys who were like the ones who survived and
The bitch wars.
yeah, like these like kind of OG criminals, a lot of them basically along with Russian politicians after like the fall of the Soviet Union and all like the rapid fire privatization, a lot of these guys not the prison guys, cool swastika
what does that
tattoo.
swastika one mean?
means peace and love and accepting of your fellow man.
Huh.
I'm not gonna fall for that one again.
Yeah.
Let's see. What were you saying, Anna?
I forgot.
You said these
And
guys survived.
that's beautiful. Well, no, a lot of the people.
That's Bernie
who,
Sanders.
Yeah.
With machine gun.
That's like really great shading work. No, a lot of these people who maybe were kind of local hoods or who worked in local government basically after privatization became very rich because if they were smart enough to
Sure.
buy up the parts of the industry that the Soviet government was basically selling for scraps, you could get very rich.
Mhm.
And like all these guys like Abramovich and Khodorkovsky are basically, they are former academics or intellectuals turned oligarchs, and those people
Right.
are like inherently mobbed up.
Right. Yeah, a lot of, I mean, that is the difference about the Russian mob is there are a lot of people with like PhDs and there's engineers in it, and it's not, you know.
Well, yeah, this is the beauty of Russian culture. All the mobsters have have PhDs in engineering, and all the fucking Gumars have like a PhD in linguistics.
Where are their podcasts?
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys something, because we do talk about, on the show, we talk about gangsters and killers. Does any part of you like feel bad that Hillary Clinton killed all those people and didn't get to be president?
Wait, who'd she kill?
Lock her up.
She killed, well, I mean, she killed a few people, right?
You know.
She kill
Benghazi.
Vince Foster.
Benghazi.
The drone strikes. The
True. She silenced a lot of women.
Crooked Hillary.
I mean, Dasha and I talked about this on an episode of our podcast. I was personally exhilarated when Donald Trump during the debates said,
He was gonna put her in jail.
Yeah, you'd be in jail under my law.
Yeah.
And
It's
yet
like that's the
she
Rudy
walks
Giuliani
free.
law.
Yeah, just another promise you didn't deliver on.
Yeah. I think it would be cool if somebody threw Hillary Clinton into one of these like old school Russian jails.
She'd probably be like the head of it in like
Yeah,
a
you're
couple
right.
months.
God damn it.
Like,
Yeah.
you are my bitch. I'm gonna tattoo a big pussy on your neck. 'Cause you're a pussy and you're not loyal. Let's see. This is Hercules.
I'm gonna use the
I guess.
shards of the shattered glass ceiling to cut your tattoo.
There you
off.
go. Nice. Well, do we have time to? Because Dasha's from Belarus. Do we have time to talk about Lukashenko a little bit?
Sure.
I was reading a little bit about him.
I mean, he's a mobster essentially. He's been in power since '94.
94. Yeah.
He's
the
like,
guy with all the pockmarks.
no, he's the guy with the mustache.
Okay.
The president. He like is president indefinitely.
Right.
Has been in power, since '94. He's basically I mean, Belarus is like, I haven't been back since I was 11 because my Belarusian passport is expired, and it's like I basically have to like bribe someone. Like if I had to go, I would have to basically be bribe my way through a trip to Belarus. But yeah,
Do you have any family over there, or
all my whole family except my parents.
Okay.
And then I have some family in Kazan, which is also like a kind of mobby part of Russia.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Lukashenko's a real piece of shit. He
Mhm.
like openly says he like admires Hitler, and like he's like a authoritarian
Sick.
strongman style.
Yeah.
Putin is his only real ally.
Oh yeah, you were saying this. Yeah.
But
Like-
he's not like on the left at all. Because didn't Belarus start as like a communist country?
It's the last of the post-Soviet states to still be like clinging to the vestiges of the Soviet Union. I mean, they have like socialized medicine and education and everything, but it's like pretty shitty.
Yeah.
And they don't have any like real natural resources. They make like diesel jeans there and
Oh, okay.
tractors.
Okay.
There's like a small like manufacturing industry, but Belarus is pretty fucked. 2/3 of it is irradiated from Chernobyl still.
Okay.
It's like a very shitty country.
I saw an interview with him. They were like, he was like, to those of you who say I'm a dictator, it's better to be a dictator than to be gay.
Hell yeah.
Didn't
Got it.
Machiavelli
Got it,
say
sir.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
In the
Or
Prince.
Sun Tzu.
Prince Machiavelli.
That is
It's
funny.
better to be feared than to be a fag.
The art of not being gay.
Right. Do you? Because I was talking about this with a friend of mine. I think that's why a lot of those books are still like popular because people use them for business.
Yeah.
And I feel like once in a while I will listen to like Joe Rogan's podcast or Sam Harris, and every guest they have on like has a company that they're plugging at the end of it. They have some kind of like Sam Harris interviewed a hostage negotiator, and the guy was talking about negotiating with hostages. And he was like, and now I have a company that will teach you like sales and stuff. Yeah. So maybe that's why that stuff keeps going. Because people go, I'm going to apply Machiavelli to my pizza business. You know?
Power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these like mafioso types really like those kind of like The Prince, The Art of War books,
Yeah.
like Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Paulie
Rich
Wall is
Dad,
listening
Poor
to
Dad.
Art of War when before he beats
what
up
is the allure of that?
it's just like man stuff. you
Yeah.
know?
Okay.
Wisdom.
It's how to dominate
passed
people.
on. Yeah.
It's like
Through
astrology
the
for men.
ages.
It's like astrology for men.
Yeah.
Basically.
Because I was reading the 48 Laws of Power over the weekend, and
Yeah.
all that stuff is like, how to acquire.
What did you
what to-
learn?
Oh, a
Have
lot
you
of stuff.
Have you
It's-
employed these tactics?
I gotta
against
tell you, it's a
us
pretty
since
good
we've
book.
been here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't one of them negging me earlier?
Yeah, you were
Mhm.
negging Matt
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
to establish dominance.
Right.
Yeah. Watch this. Frankie, come. Frankie, come.
All right. For the listeners, he's
Frankie,
not coming
He's
yet.
not.
Oh,
Oh,
here he
there
comes.
is. There he is.
Good boy. You are a loyal dog. You're proving yourself as a.
He answers to command.
Oh, he's
Frankie,
so
speak.
cute.
He really is like a palace dog, and he kind of knows.
Yeah.
It, you know,
He's
like.
very aristocratic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I do his voice, I do a Chinese voice, and people go, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's a Chinese dog."
Hello.
I know.
Hey,
Yeah.
why don't you learn some culture? Why don't you study and learn some about dogs? Actually, I mean, the 48 Laws of Power is pretty good, and I would like read because we were in Montauk. We had dinner with Scarlett,
Friend of the show.
friend of the show, Scarlett Johansson.
You did?
Yeah, and it was the day that she turned down that role.
For the trans
She originally accepted
Drama.
it and then turned it down.
Yeah. because Colin has a house there. So I was just sitting on his lounge chair, and I was reading the 48 Laws of Power, drinking old fashioned. I'd be like, Deborah, get in here. And I would read her a passage from the 48 Laws of Power. But there's good, I don't know, I think there's good stuff in there. Like a lot of it is like, don't outshine the master, don't get too big of an ego, here's how to use money. What are the other ones? Don't be a fucking big mouth.
Got it. The way that you use money is that you scrunch it up and you shove it into the mouth of the maitre d'. He's acting out of pocket.
Right. And you go, you should be thankful for this.
Yeah.
That's your whole salary. But that's really funny that it is kind of like astrology for men.
Yeah.
Which is they're all just trying to navigate this.
Yeah, which just goes to show how like utterly in the thrall of magical thinking all these like mob types are.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the other laws?
I haven't read the book.
It's like, don't reveal your intention.
Clearly you have not read
It's not gay if you're in prison.
It's not gay. It's not gay if you're in prison.
You don't talk about the 48 Laws of Power is the second one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And if you read tonight, you have to fight.
Always say less than necessary.
Thank you. Yeah.
So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life.
Guard it with your life.
Ooh. Yeah, you would like that one.
Court attention at all costs. Well, I've been doing that for a long time.
Right.
That must be why I'm so powerful. not needy. Make other people come to you. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
Like people who are unhappy.
Like miserable people.
Sorry, Anna, we're gonna have to cut ties.
I just got a text from my mom. Call me when you get a minute.
Oof.
Let's call her on the pod.
Yeah, somebody's
get
dead.
Your mom on the phone.
Call her on the pod.
Law 15, crush your enemy totally.
Oof.
Crush him not only in body but in spirit. What the fuck is this book? Recine?
Because you have to take out your enemies, like Trump said. You got to take out their families.
God.
What are the other laws?
Play on people's need to create a cult-like following.
Oh, another thing that's pretty good is play to people's self-interest. Don't ask for help, but play to people's self-interest. So instead of being like, Dasha, Anna, can I please do Red Scare? I would be like, Dasha, Anna, look, I can bring a lot to your show.
Yeah.
You need me. You know? One time I worked at this store in Williamsburg, and this Italian guy came in selling like raw kale juice, and he was like, listen, I got something here. Raw kale. It's the hottest product on the market right now. Acting like he was doing me a favor.
Got antioxidant.
That guy read the book, you know?
It's
Yeah.
a superfood.
I heard kale turns you trans.
Maybe. I do have tits. You think that's why? But I've had it since I was like 10. I was supposed to get that operation where they put a rod in your chest. My mom said there was some operation.
Wait, what are you talking about?
What?
She was like, well, when I was 10, my mom was like, the reason you have tits is because there's a hole in your chest.
Because I breastfed you until you were 14.
Yeah.
Chest.
I guess. And she was like, we'll get you that operation where they stick a rod in there, and then you won't look like you have boobs anymore. But I guess we never got around to it.
It doesn't sound
Maybe
right.
it's not too late.
Yeah, she would lie. Whatever.
I don't know.
Nobody's perfect. Anyway.
That's true. That's rule number 47.
Nobody's hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. Right.
Rule number 48 is dance like nobody's
All right, I guess we're going to wrap up. Do you guys want to plug anything?
We have a live show on August 7th at Union Hall.
Cool.
We will be doing a talk show.
Yeah, we will be appearing live.
Yeah, obviously we have a podcast, Red Scare, available on iTunes or whatever.
Wherever podcasts are sold.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I don't have anything to plug.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm gonna.
Thanks for having us.
Wait, I want to pull up another Russian.
Okay. Thanks for the prosciutto and the mozzarella.
You're welcome.
Listen to my movie podcast, 20-year-old movie.
20-year-old movie podcast. And guys, email us, sitdownpod@gmail.com. Like we said last week, if you want to support us financially, it's so easy to delete your Patreon subscription. So just sign up, do it for 1 month, and then you could just, delete it the month after.
Dude, you're going to go crazy.
Because I did that. When Maitland Ward was having that underwear party. Remember? I signed up and then you deleted it.
Yeah.
So do we
followed a Snapchat model. $15 a month, and I deleted it Because it's connected to our Patreon, so I'm watching
so I'm
it
basically
come out
taking
of
money out of Matt's mouth to watch this girl have an underwear
premium
party.
Snapchat Patreon. They were
Only
having
$15, huh?
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a steal.
What was it? A slumber party that you were interested in?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a slumber party. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, thanks.
Thanks for having
Now it's
us.
gonna play an ad.